The PlayStation Vita, Sony's successor to the PSP, the PlayStation Portable. It's one of my favorite handheld devices ever. I've played it so much it's not even funny. Some people don't even know it existed, on the other hand though, which is pretty crazy to me, but hey, whatever. Some people say that there's not a lot of games or there's nothing to play on it and whatnot, but hey, it is what it is, right? This video is for you guys. Top 10 PlayStation Vita games according to ENT. Coming in at number 10 we have Senran Kagura Shinobi Versus. Jiggle physics. Need I say more? Alright, well I will. Outside of that, this game does have something more. It's one of the only games on this list. Spoiler warning, that's not a turn-based JRPG or visual novel, and for pretty good reason. There is something that bugs me though, and it's the title. Shinobi Versus instead of Shinobi Versus. I don't know why there's a V instead of a B. I don't know if that's like a stylistic choice or something, because Shinobi is ninja. And you play as a bunch of female ninjas with different weapons and fighting styles, and it's an action slash beat 'em up kind of game. Whole bunch of different combos and techniques and whatnot. Very interesting. I love playing as the variety of the different chicks that there are. It's pretty dang cool. This game introduced me to the rest of the Senran Kagura's franchise, which quickly became one of my new favorite series, and the anime is pretty good as well. The combat and the interactions between the characters is truly the draw for me. Some people on the other hand enjoy the fact that the characters' clothes rip off as they get damaged. And to that I say, well hey, there's something out there for everybody, so whatever floats your boat. Coming in at number 9 we have Rayman Legends. If you've seen my top 10 Game Boy Advance games video, then you probably know that I do enjoy platformers, and Rayman is no exception to that. One of the best things about this game is probably dang near everything really, but I mean seriously, this game took Rayman Origins and basically just improved upon that. It even includes a bunch of levels from Origins in it, which is nice, especially for those who didn't get a chance to play it. It boasts well over 100 levels, including the ones that make a return from Origins, which gives you plenty of stages to explore and conquer while collecting lums and of course freeing those little teensies along the way. Coming in at number 8, we have Utawarerumono, Mask of Deception. This game is the second overall in the Utawarerumono trilogy, but the first one that I've ever played, and the first one in the series that's available on the Vita. Despite being a sequel, its narrative is enough of a self-contained story that you shouldn't be too confused if you play it without prior knowledge. Unlike pure visual novels like Steins or visual novel adventure hybrids like Danganronpa, this one is a visual novel tactical RPG hybrid. So there's actual combat involved, which is a nice break from the long bouts of narration. Every so often you break into a turn-based combat situation with the protagonist and friends versus enemies. You move on a grid in a similar vein to Final Fantasy Tactics. It's really a cool change of pace for a visual novel, and the game was overall thoroughly enjoyable for its very unique storyline and characters. If you do play it, however, make sure to go and play the sequel as well, which is Utawarerumono, Mask of Truth, the third game in the trilogy. Coming in at number 7 we have YS, Memories of Celceta. My introduction to the YS series is this game right here. It's one of the premier action RPGs on the Vita and one of my favorite games in the series overall. It's quite fun mapping out the island of Celceta with Adol Christian and the rest of the cast. It's no walk in the park, it's more like a trek through the forest. You explore various terrains because you're hired by the Governor General of the island to make a map for them, since Adol is an adventurer, and I guess that's what adventurers do sometimes, right? They explore islands and make maps. Hey, I get it. The gameplay and combat are simple and swift. I like how there's 3 different types of attacks, slash, strike, and pierce. And there's 6 different characters, so there's 2 of each. Some enemies are weak to one and immune to the other 2, some of them are neutral to basically all of them, but overall it gives you a reason to really try out all the different party members due to the different weaknesses and immunities and whatnot that the enemies have. This game also got a remastered version on the PlayStation 4, like some of the other games on this list, as well as a continuation of the series with Lacrimosa of Dana, which also got a PS Vita release as well. If you like Memories of Celceta, then you definitely like that one as well. That could have been on the list, but I only pick one game per series, so Celceta it is. Coming in at number 6 we have Gravity Rush. Despite the fact that this game messes with me visually because of all the gravity rushing as you see in the title, it's still one of my favorite games on the Vita. Every Vita user should give this game a try, but if you have problems with motion too, then it might be a little bit difficult at times for you to handle all the movement. That aside, it is easily one of the best action-adventure games on the console, and one of the more unique ones at that. How many other games can you really think of that use gravity powers? I can't think of any, honestly. It also received a well-deserved remaster on the PlayStation 4, as well as a sequel in Gravity Rush 2, which unfortunately didn't get a PlayStation Vita release. Coming in, at number 5 we have The Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel, the game that started the Trails of Cold Steel sub-series of the overall Legend of Heroes overarching series, which is a very long-running JRPG. The sheer amount of detail that they put into the lore of this game is truly one of the standouts. Every NPC has something to say. Every town has some new book to read. There's just so much. You can easily spend at least 50 hours on this game learning everything about it and the overall expanded lore and still not be complete. The whole Class 7 thing with the social classes and the politics involved also, where there's commoners and nobility, and you get to see how they interact with one another and the distrust or dislike that they have, doesn't come across as forced, and also comes across as pretty realistic. It makes a lot of sense. It's honestly one of the best features about this game and series overall that I feel is done very well. It also isn't exactly the typical JRPG trope where the teenagers just solve everything though. The adults often do come in and have to handle some of the more difficult fights, which is a bit more realistic and sets the game up for the sequels quite well and the overarching story of the series. I mean, you get to see their growth, their wisdom, their maturity through the experience that they have in 1, and then 2, and then 3, so on and so forth. You play 1, you gotta play the rest. You gotta know what happens. Very enthralling. Next up, number 4, Persona 4 Golden. There's not many Vita games that people typically would put above Persona 4 Golden probably, unless they just don't like JRPGs. Golden is a remastered version of sorts to the original Persona 4 for the PlayStation 2 and includes a bunch of additions like new social links, characters, personas, and everything else pretty much. If you like high school simulators where teens have to save society from some kind of supernatural force, aka the typical JRPG trope, then you've got to try it. Like some other games on this list, Golden introduced me to the Persona series as a whole, and I probably put it at 4 just because it has 4 in the title. Coming in at number 3 we have Steins Gate. Probably the best pure visual novel on the Vita. This is the second game in the science adventure series, the first one I played in the series, and also probably my favorite in the series so far of all the ones that I've played. I'm not typically a fan of time travel plots, but this is one of those rare occasions I feel like I really enjoyed it for what it was. It was explained in a way that makes some sort of sense, and above all else, it really connects you with the characters. The main character, Okabe, is your average socially awkward young adult who just happens to be pretty smart and charismatic in his own way. And he gathers a group of friends around him and tangles himself into something much bigger than he ever could have hoped to imagine, but still manages to pull through due to his intellect, teamwork, and dedication. You could really find yourself rooting and seeing yourself in him, especially if you're socially awkward too, much like I am, obviously. Coming in at number 2, we have Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc. The first game in the Danganronpa series, and easily a standout title for the Vita, without a doubt. It was originally released as a PSP title in Japan, but years later was released in other regions as a Vita title, so it fits for the list. It's essentially a murder mystery novel turned adventure visual novel hybrid, with a little bit of trial and error to boot. Quite literally, in fact, thanks to the infamous clash trials that occur in each chapter. The wide assortment of characters makes this game one where you could ask the fan base for their favorites and continuously get a different answer. Unfortunately, due to the nature of the killing game, some of these characters just simply don't get much time in the game at all. I won't name names for those that haven't played it, but for those that have, you kinda already know exactly who I'm referring to probably. The soundtrack though, is another one of the things in this game that stands out. Give it a listen, you shouldn't be disappointed. Now guys, before I get to number 1, I'm going to give you guys a moment to think about what it is, And remind you to subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. Follow the channel on Twitch, Instagram, and Twitter. I go live on a regular basis. And of course, click the thumbs up button if you like the video. It is very much appreciated. Did you guess what number 1 is? If you don't know, now you know. Coming in at number 1, we have Zero Escape, Virtue's Last Reward. I've probably said it before and I'll say it again. This is the game that introduced me to visual novels and started me along the path to play almost every single other game on this list. I still remember going on the PS Store on the Vita, picking the demo up for this because I was really at a loss for what game to get on this new handheld that I had just bought earlier in the year. The first 2 games I bought for it were a bit disappointing and I needed something new to try. VLR did just that with its mind-blowing plot, difficult puzzles that often required me to go online to search for assistance, to be honest. And the characters and different story paths that kept me wanting to play more and more just to see what would happen next. Each branching path has something new and intriguing to learn about the plot, characters, and events leading up to this ever-unraveling mystery. Who would have thought that an Escape the Room game would wind up being one of the best games that the Vita has to offer? Not me. That was my top 10, and as always, it is subject to change depending on how I feel at the moment. Honorable mentions are in the description box below. Check them out. And of course, feel free to leave a comment on what you think about the Vita and the games that are available and what are some of your favorites. And hopefully I introduced you to some new games and maybe even a new handheld console for you to try out. The games on this list, as always, a lot of them are parts of a series, and they can be interchanged with other games in the series, to be quite honest, but I always recommend starting from the first one and work your way down. I have also recently joined a Discord server about the Vita, so if you would like to join as well and have a Vita, check the description box below or the comment section where I will leave a link to join. You can also reach out to me directly on Twitch, Instagram, Twitter, or Discord, and I can send you a link there as well. As always guys, thanks for watching. This is ENT and I am OUT.